Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Wednesday, June 19th, and we have what the?
Got going on?
Boys.
Oh, Jeff.
Lock in,
Jeff, you got to be better.
Hey, we're good. Hey, today, pack show. Kory Woods joining, who covers the Detroit Pistons and Detroit Lions for M Live. John Maakaron joining the program as well. It's Wednesday. You know what time it is.
Oh, my gosh, you scared me.
45. He'll be here as well. Monty Williams, fired, out, nada. Detroit Pistons begin their head coaching search. We'll discuss it all today. Boys, how we feeling? It was a lot of news went down today, boys. A lot of news.
See that? We did it, boys. It's officially a restart. I told you guys, I've made it very clear from the beginning, probably since September, that I wasn't going to talk Pistons or give them the time of day until Troy Weaver or Monty Williams was fired, or they sold the team and they gave it to someone who wants to run the organization and actually win basketball games. They fired Troy Weaver, fired Monty Williams, fresh restart of the program. We love this. And I know it's like the 7th restart in 11 years. Love a good refresh. Love a good restart. Gives us a little bit of hope. And I'm not going to get too excited. That's my excitement for the year now. I want to see some wins.
Booner, you're right. There's been like 7 refreshes, but there's not been one that has been needed as much as this one. Let's have a night, fellas. I can't wait to hear from Kory, hear his perspective from his side of things, obviously, because he's a little bit more plugged in. The doc. It's a great day, fellas. Great day. Can't wait.
Hey, it's a good day. It's a good day for your boy, too, because you know who's kind of floating around the social medias for maybe a potential, Detroit Pistons head coach. Chris Quinn, and we'll get to him because Booner, big Chris Quinn guys. But you know who my Joe Klatt of the NBA is? JJ Redick. There's a little report out there, and where there's smoke, there's some fire. That potentially Vinny Goodwill of Yahoo Sports, which Vinny does a great job. He's very reliable. Maybe put something out about maybe JJ Redick.
There's no way. There's
maybe.
No way.
Maybe.
There's a report out there.
Okay, let me play devil. Let me just put this is just my instant reaction to this, fellas. And again, correct me where I'm wrong here, but JJ Redick, I think he could be a good NBA head coach. But why would you want that to be your first gig? Because if you fail, it's going to be hard to land another job, in my opinion. And this is an easy situation to fail in. That's where I'm kind of pushing back. Like if the Lakers are calling him with LeBron, go run it up another season at ESPN and see what openings are out there next year. For me, I think the Pistons, for them to have success, they need a guy with experience or, to your point, Chris Quinn, who's been on a coaching staff that has won before and knows what it means to win. And JJ won as a player, great player. I'm not denying that. But I think you fellas even agree that coaching is a whole different monster, especially a situation like this.
I do think, and I'm trying to find it right now as quick as I can to send to Jeff, because I saw a video today, and maybe I can just explain it because I can't find the video in time, and I should have probably done my homework before, but I watched the video this morning before the news of JJ Redick came out, because as soon as Monty got fired, in my head, the first thing that pops in my head is I do think, guys, JJ Redick right now, maybe him and Chris Quinn, in my opinion, are the 2 hottest head coaching candidates, in my opinion. That's just personally. So right away, okay, what's JJ Redick's feelings on the Detroit Pistons? Like, is there any way the Pistons could move him away from the Lakers? And is that the reason why right now they're kind of holding off and JJ's kind of holding off in LA, is that he does have a connection in Detroit somehow? And the first video that popped up this morning, and now it's gotten pushed down. I don't know where it's at, but it literally, when I typed JJ Redick Pistons in this morning, it was the first video that popped up, and he did an interview with Alex Caruso, and it was 2 seasons ago, or maybe, it was 2 seasons ago. And he told Alex Caruso, and he started breaking down Cade Cunningham. And then he eventually got to the point to saying, I think in the next 2 or 3 years, when you have a guy like Cade Cunningham and some pieces that this Pistons team has right now, that's a team that can be in the playoffs within the next 2 or 3 years and be competing and contending at some point. Similar, and he brought it up to similar to what the Thunder did with SGA. And he said, I feel like that's a situation. And he was like, I love what's happening in Detroit, blah, 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 blah. And obviously, that whoever the people in the front office did not take care of the situation that well. Like Troy Weaver didn't handle it well. Monty Williams didn't handle it well. JJ, on the other hand, if he feels like what they've brought in and some of the pieces are capable pieces, in a young team, and there are a lot of people who like to do this. You see, like in LA, coaches just keep getting fired because it's like if you don't work out in 1 year, you're gone because you have vets who need to win now. The Pistons do have a situation to where you can make this your own thing. You can build this up and make this your own monster. And if he feels like there's the right pieces, I wouldn't be shocked if JJ sat there and took some of the calls, sat down and had a meeting, said, hey, like I like the video I saw 2 years ago. He obviously had some sort of enticement for these players that are on this team and what the organization's about. So I wouldn't be shocked if he like saw this opening this morning and said, hey, I'm going to take this meeting. Just like the Lakers did to him. Remember how he was the front runner and he was told by them, the Lakers, that you're the front runner, you're the one that we want. And then a week later, they went after Dan Hurley, and he was a little thrown off by that. Like, hey, I thought I was your guy. Now, hey, Lakers thinks, hey, JJ's like, hey, yeah, you guys are my guy, but I'm going to go check out the Pistons too. Would not be shocked at all. I would not be shocked.
You got to think, okay, from JJ's perspective, and this goes for Chris Quinn too, who has not been a head coach, but soon will be. And this is why I lean towards those two coaches, because you just need an absolute tactician. You need someone that schematically can just be such a significant upgrade, because you see where modern day basketball is heading. I mean, we watch the NBA finals. Yeah, you need star talent, but also you need someone who is elite in the X's and O's category. And if you're a guy who has not been a head coach yet, or someone who's an assistant wanting to be a head coach, I know this sounds crazy because the Pistons aren't an ideal situation, but sometimes it's better to leave your imprint on a younger team rather than go to a team where a LeBron is basically the coach anyway. And maybe that's something that he desires. But just speaking from Chris Quinn's perspective, that's someone that I think might look at the Pistons and be like, hey, I get to come here, and a lot of young players, kind of set the culture. It could be intriguing. Not only the organization's a hard sales pitch, but you have an owner who's willing to pay a lot of money. So that could also be something to do with it. And also, JJ, I've seen this trending, and Coach Walk put it in there. Arntellum, JJ Redick, Trajan Langdon, both Arntellum former clients. And on top of that, both Duke graduates. So there's a little connection there. But hey, you never know. I want to get – no, go on.
I just want to say too, like I saw a couple people in the chat, like, don't get caught up, and I can't remember who it was that put it in there. It's gone past now. Don't get caught up in the JJ Redick name and some of the names of some of these coaches. And Jeff, me and you talked about this. Yeah, there it is. Truth teller, shout out. And Jeff, me and you, we had the conversation before the show started, like 30 minutes ago, about JJ Redick and having a guy like him to where he is, as much as you want to think he is, or not, he's one of the greatest basketball minds right now in the industry. And yeah, you don't know if he can coach or not or what it is, but when you have that opportunity for that, or a Chris Quinn, or a Borrego, like, these are guys that are like, some of these guys have coached. You haven't seen Chris Quinn as a head coach either, and I know he's been with Eric Spoelstra, but I do think, like, if JJ Redick's an option, I wouldn't be shocked if they had a conversation. I'm interested to hear, when we have Kory on here, I'm interested to hear his point of view on that as well with those reports. But I don't think it's something crazy to say, hey, get caught up in the name, because he's one of the most sought out coaches right now in the NBA.
Well, and real quick,
was in Golden State before Miami, correct?
Who?
Chris Quinn, or am I tweaking there?
I
Golden State?
I don't know. I know he's been with the Heat for a while. I'd have to double check that. I can say it wrong. I don't know for officially. But what I will say is the JJ skepticism of him not being a head coach before. I understand that, because I'll talk about this later in the show as well, after we talk to Kory, about how they have to get this next head coach hire right for a lot of different reasons. It'll be Cade's third head coach. You don't want to make it fourth. All right, you don't want to make it fourth. But let's bring in our special guest here, Kory Woods, who covers the Detroit Pistons, man's Swiss Army knife, Detroit Pistons and Detroit Lions, 4M Live, and he's able to join us tonight. So we're very thankful for him. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Kory.
Oh, yeah.
Woods. Kory!
What's going on? What's going on?
Kory,
what's up, Kory?
What a day. I mean,
What
Kory,
a day.
we had a lot transpire. Obviously, Troy Weaver's gone.
Yeah.
We had you on. We broke it down. Monty Williams is now out today.
Mm-hmm.
It has been made official. I'll ask you this, because I'm sure we'll get into the coaching candidates. Why today? The draft's about a week out. What went into this decision, and maybe how long have they been contemplating this decision, Kory? Was it a tough one? Was it an easy decision, your perspective?
First off, it's not a shocking decision that they decided to go ahead and get rid of Monty Williams. I mean, you look at the record, 14-68, the worst mark in franchise history, 28-game losing streak. So it's not a shocker that he got fired. Also, when you look at the way that the lineups were trotted out this season, and obviously one of the most glaring mistakes that you can say that he did right out the gate was starting Killian Hayes over Jaden Ivey. There was a multitude of factors that led to this. The only thing that shocks me right now about the firing is you said is the timing. It is 11 days away from the NBA draft, and they decided to go ahead and make that change since Trajan Langdon got in as president of basketball operations. He was said to have been evaluating everything with the team, including Monty Williams' status moving forward. From what I've been hearing, from what the reports have been said, him and Tom Gores were both in lockstep that there needed to be a change at the top. They did not feel that Monty Williams was going to be the guy to lead this Pistons team, this young core, over the next 5 years. So Monty Williams signed off on the firing, and Trajan Langdon delivered the news this morning.
Yeah, and Kory too. I guess, is everyone in Pistons Nation here. What do you think, or have you heard anything kind of on the timeline of finding not just the next head coach, but as well, obviously with Troy Weaver out, who's going to be the general manager? Is Langdon just going to say, hey, I'm going to handle that, especially with the draft coming up? Or do you think they're going to, it's a week out of the draft, are they going to try and push do they already have a GM candidate? And then on the same side, the head coach, it seems like they might just go all through the draft without either one. Is that the case?
Well, I haven't heard anything on the GM front, but there is one thing to keep in mind. They did bring in J.R. Bowden to a front office role that has yet to be disclosed. And before the Pistons even looked at Troy Weaver as general manager, J.R. Bowden was one of those candidates alongside Mike Dunleavy. So that's something to keep your eye on. As far as right now with Trajan Langdon and where he's going, again, we have not heard him speak yet. He has not had an introductory press conference. So there is really not a pulse on which direction that he's going to go. But what you can say is from the coaching searches, the release that the team got today, that they're going to go through an immediate search starting right now. I am not sure if they're going to have a coach in place by time for the draft, but I believe you would definitely want one before free agency starts, especially before NBA Summer League starts.
Yeah, Kory, appreciate you joining. My question, so the Pistons obviously have been rebuilding for a long time. 14 wins,
Absolutely.
It doesn't get much worse than that. But the fact that now you bring in Trajan Langdon, you're going to bring in another head coach. Do you think that pushes back the window until they're finally going to be able to be a playoff caliber team? Or do you think it could possibly accelerate it just now that they have different minds in that front office?
I think what you're hoping is the latter, that it accelerates when you have different minds in the office. I believe if you look at teams like the Houston Rockets, the Orlando Magic, if you want to go Indiana Pacers to a degree, rebuilds in the NBA do not really take that long. So I don't think this is really necessarily a thing you need to tear it down and build it right back up. I believe you have the young pieces in place, such as a Cade Cunningham, a Jalen Duren, and a Jaden Ivey if they keep them around, an Ausar Thompson. You have young pieces in place. The problem is they are not surrounded around veteran talent to help aid that growth process. It's really the blind leading the blind. So with them having $64 million, roughly $65 million in cap space this offseason, what you're going to want to do for this team is surround them with some savvy veterans to aid this process. And I believe that's the best way to go about it right about now.
Yeah, and Kory, I said this before you joined, and I tweeted this out. I think ideally, if I had to paint a picture for what the next head coach of the Pistons must look like, and they have to get it right, we can acknowledge that. I think you're looking at someone who's just a tactician, X's and O's guy, someone, develop players, but you develop players by being very smart schematically. That also helps develop players. And that's where the league's kind of heading at this point, younger, brighter coaches. What are your thoughts on the report? Because I know we'll get to a couple of different candidates the fellas want to ask you about, but I'll start with JJ Redick. Just your thoughts. It's more of a controversial topic because he's never been a head coach, but you have ties to Arn Tellem, ties to Trajan Langdon. And I said this too, as a guy who's never been a head coach, or this goes really for anyone, assistant also that's never been a head coach. Wouldn't you want to go to a younger team, although the Pistons are in a great situation, but a team that's younger to kind of leave an imprint more so than a veteran team where maybe your voice gets lost or you have better players that might not respect you initially?
I don't think really it matters whether the team is young or old. I think it matters the best if you're going into the best situation. When you got a guy like JJ Redick, he has a respected mind around the league. You see the podcast that he's done with LeBron James, where he's pretty much did an even more deeper dive into his X's and O's. And I believe when you get a guy in there like JJ Redick, it could be something good, or it could turn out to be Steve Nash. It could go either. It could
Right.
go either type. It could go either type of way. I do feel though that for this group of Pistons players right now, you want to go somewhat young, but also somebody with some experience. And you do not want to take on another project, in my opinion. Now, obviously, there is the Duke ties there with JJ and Trajan, and obviously there's the R and Tellum ties. And it's not shocking if Langdon decides to bring in people that he's comfortable with, people that he has ties with. I mean, that is really what you're supposed to do when you get into these roles. You bring in your people to where
Right.
you're about to go. But I'm not sure if JJ would be the guy for this young team. I will say this: he's a well-respected mind, and somebody that a Cade Cunningham and a Jaden Ivey, if you keep that pair together, whoever they bring in, that is somebody they can listen to. But if I would probably go a little bit older, but still younger to the game, a guy that I think that should be on the Pistons' radar for this position is a guy who just won an NBA championship a couple of days ago with the Boston Celtics, and that's Sam Cassell. 15-year veteran, has been through several stops, is a 3-time NBA champion. That is a guy that can go in there on day one and say, "Hey, I've done it as a coach. I've done it as a player. I've coached with some of the best of the league. I know what it takes to get you guys where you want to go."
I like the Sam Cassell. That's a great one. I want to ask you about another candidate that's been brought up is the Chris Quinn thing and him coming out of Miami and being under Spoelstra and kind of setting that culture. I think he's been there for 10 years now. And that seems more so to the point where you were saying a little more experience already coaching over the last 10 seasons, being on teams and coaching teams with Spoelstra that have been to the finals and has found success and build that culture up. Do you think Chris Quinn would be like, where are you at with that? Because that seems like a name that I keep seeing pop up more often than not, probably at the most out of anyone here out of most candidates. Are you in on Chris Quinn, and what do you think that he can kind of bring for the organization?
Chris Quinn is another good hire. They call him Mini Spoelstra. The guy has been there for most of his coaching career. Before he went to he had a small stint in Northwestern. The guy has been credited with establishing that Heat culture. And what is something that the Pistons are lacking right now? They're lacking an identity. And Quinn the Pistons don't have a coach. That's a guy that you can bring in there. You can say like, "Hey, I've been developing players. I've been a part of a team that has been a perennial Eastern Conference favorite." He can go in there with some cachet and be able to talk day one about his plan and his vision to help make these players better. That's another guy that you could probably look at. And then I want to throw one more out there. It's somebody that just got recently dismissed from the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I thought really did not deserve to lose his job, and that is J.B. Bickerstaff, just another young coach that can connect with players, that has proven that he can get some type of success. He's been with the Cleveland Cavaliers for 5 years, past 2 seasons. They finished second in the NBA Central. I believe that he shouldn't have lost his job this past playoffs because of his team went down with so many injuries. So that's also another guy I think they should probably give a good look at as well.
And kind of moving away from coaching and more towards the roster, Kory, moving into this offseason, we expect a lot of moves to be made to this roster. And a player that I think is more polarizing than I expected to be is Jalen Duren. What do you think, compared to a player like Jaden Ivey, is his future with the Detroit Pistons?
I think Jalen Duren's future with the Pistons is going to be a tricky one, because I am not sure if the Pistons are going to be able to lure a free agent to Detroit with that cap space that they have. So what's going to have to happen is, if you want to go land that all-star talent, because I don't know if they have the pieces for a superstar, but if you want to land that all-star talent, you might have to end up packaging Jalen Duren. And as much talent as he has, as much as we see that his ceiling can be, probably be one of the best big men in the NBA, he did slip defensively this past season, which is something to kind of keep an eye on. So I believe that, that's a tricky one right there.
There's no
Kory,
clear vision on it for sure.
I mean, Kory, you see it on Twitter and people talking about it with James Borrego, and obviously the ties there. I mean, they crossed paths for 1 year with San Antonio. He's an assistant under Willie Green while Trajan Langdon's with the Pelicans. And I've been seeing this too, and shout out to Coach Walk, but he says, "I hope we don't become the Detroit Pelicans." What's your opinion on James Borrego? While he was coaching, the Hornets had a short tenure there, a couple years, younger team. He had 138 and 163 record. They improved his final year, but was ultimately let go. I think Sean commented on my Twitter post when I tweeted out his record, Sean Murphy, and he said they had a pretty good offense his last year. What's your opinion on a guy like James Borrego and maybe the likelihood that, because the Cleveland Cavaliers has been reported they like him as well?
I mean, James Borrego is a former coach. He's a well-respected offensive mind. He's somebody that could also come in there and be a good developer. But again, when you're trying to galvanize this fan base, when you're trying to get them back on track, I believe you need to really make a hire that you can truly sell. When you bring in a guy like Borrego, is as great of a coach as he possibly could be, you run the risk of people wondering, okay, how many of your guys are you going to bring over? Granted, again, I'm kind of almost contradicting myself. You said you want to bring your guys over, but how many of your guys are you going to bring over? Do you really, when you're going through this coaching search, are you really overturning every stone out there, or are you just going to go with somebody that you're comfortable with for the now? Because, I mean, if you're going to fire Monty Williams and eat that $65 million, you need to make sure that this guy that you're hiring is somebody that you believe can be the one to take this team over the hump for the next several years.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, and I'm just going to keep sticking on this Monty thing and kind of this coaching search here thing right now, Kory. I want to throw this out there just for at least for the people, because we've got everyone in the chat, obviously all Pistons fans, and Kory, I think you do one of the best jobs in the city of covering the Pistons and the Lions as well. So I want to get your thought just on, obviously, with the Pistons organization the last 11 seasons since kind of Tom Gores has taken over, since 2010 or 11, I believe, and there's been 7 different head coaches. Now, what is something, at least, and this is kind of where I'm coming from, to be honest, just as a fan outside of us working in this industry, just what is like the thought of like, hey, we can trust them to make this move. They've made this move now. This is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th head coach now and reset that feels like we're having here in this organization with Tom Gores. But like, where is somewhere we can be like, all right, Trajan Langdon, like we can really trust him? Or like, is Tom Gores going to say, hey, I'm going to step back and let Langdon just let him be great at what he's great at? Or like, what's like the feeling here for fans to at least take a little bit of faith coming out of this and going into this next step?
I think this is the sign of a new era. I mean, I believe this is the first. I believe this offseason, the first time since like 2018, if I'm not mistaken, that the Pistons replaced both the GM and the coach in the same offseason. So, and the fact that Langdon is being given full autonomy to take over this franchise, I believe that is a sign that the Pistons are going in the right direction. To me, it kind of is. And I might be jumping the gun on this, so don't take this to the bank. But it almost feels like with what Sheila Hamp did when she stepped in with the Lions. She brought in a Chris Philman and brought in a Brad Holmes, a Mike Gibbons. She brought in people to make these decisions, and she took a step back, something that her predecessor did not do. And look at where the Detroit Lions are at right now. So I believe that with the way that Tom Gores is allowing Langdon to move, and especially before an introductory press conference, which I actually think is kind of smart that they did, allowed him to go ahead and make these moves. So when day one he speaks to the public, he can outline his vision. I believe that this could be the signal of a new guard with Pistons basketball. And one thing about Gores, I know this guy gets a lot of flack, and I'm not going to sit up here and be defending him or anything like that. But let's just look at the logic of this. It's maybe Tom. You can fault Tom Gores for making some bad decisions, but what you can't fault Tom Gores for is not spending the money. Tom Gores has spent the money to make the Pistons better. Maybe hasn't made the best decisions, but he spent the money to make this team better. And unfortunately, it just has not come to fruition. And maybe right now with this new change, things will be a lot better.
I love to hear that the Sheila thing, and it does feel like there is a little sense of that to where you're able to. It's kind of a new step in the Pistons organization. I do have one more question here, and this is kind of more so just on the offseason, not even with what happened today. And I know we talked to you about it a couple of weeks ago, but when we were on the show yesterday, I brought up how I just feel like with Cade now that the Pistons should go out there, and I know there's not a great free agent pool, but go out there, spend some money in free agency, and as well as go trade for one or two maybe a little bigger market players to put Cade around 2 players in this league that have proven themselves already instead of guys coming up. And I just think it's time now, this organization with Langdon, to take a step forward when it comes to building a team and saying, let's spend, let's trade, let's go all in on Cade and give him something. Is that kind of where you feel like going into this offseason, or is that like, hey, let's wait till next year? But where do you kind of stand on that?
Well, really, if you look at it, the Pistons don't have a choice. They have about $65 million in cap room, and I believe I told you guys this before the season starts. They have to spend 90% of that money, or they have to cut the league a check of the difference. So what do? You spend the money. You spend the money either through free agency, or you spend the money through making a trade that absorbs some of that cap. I believe 2 moves that if they're able to pull them off, that could aid the growth process of the team is if they're able to swing a trade for Brandon Ingram as well as land Malik Monk in free agency. I believe if you get those 2 guys next to a Cade Cunningham, who was a consummate facilitator, one of 7 guys last year to average at least 20 points and 7 assists, you're going to see a very different Pistons team on the court. So I believe those are 2 things that they should try to lock in on once this offseason starts, for real.
Yeah, great stuff, Kory. We appreciate you, man, taking the time. I know you've been busy today. All the guys locally here working OT, you, James Edwards, all you guys, man. And I appreciate you on short notice joining the program. You guys can check out Kory's stuff, mlive.com, covers the Detroit Pistons and the Detroit Lions. Kory, we'll talk to you very soon, my friend.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate you, Kory.
Kory Woods, breaking it down for us with the exit now of Monty Williams. And I think he made some great points. Another underrated guy that I'm glad he mentioned, Sam Cassell. I wouldn't mind Sam Cassell either.
T-Wolves legend, Sam Cassell.
Yes. Yeah. He what he's done as an assistant coach, I mean, he's been the right-hand man for some pretty good teams. So
where has he coached? I've seen him. I can remember seeing his face, but where has he coached before?
He was with the Celtics last, I believe, 2 seasons. It could be 3, but he was with the 76ers before that. And then I don't know where he was before that, but he's been around, man. As a player, he's won championships, but as a coach,
he was Celtics, Sixers, Clippers, and Wizards. That's his as a coach. Okay. That's where
with
he
the
was,
Clippers too.
Yeah.
So
that's been part of some good teams.
So I think the Pistons have options. I'm assuming the interview process is going to start pretty soon. I mean, they're going to have to probably start that relative, but at the same time, I guess they could wait because they only need Trajan Langdon to do the draft.
That's what I was going to say.
They don't need a head coach to do the draft.
I feel like it almost put more pressure on the head coach to be signed before rather than after. Like, the roster that you're going in there with compared to, okay, you got to come up with who you want in that, they have the 5th overall pick. You got to figure out who you want in a matter of 11 days, and you and Trajan got to be locked in on that move.
Well, and I think too, like today, Shams was asked a question about the Pistons, and he said, like, when you're going through this process, you don't want to rush, especially if it's like, this is one of the biggest decisions, like you said, Jeff, like in Tom Gores and Langdon, like this is one of the biggest decisions in franchise history, because you've gone through 7 head coaches in 11 seasons or whatever the stat is. Like it's an insane amount, or 13 seasons. I apologize. It's just an insane amount of coaches to go through when you're trying to build a culture. Like that's essentially, like, each coach gets 2 years. Obviously some got less and more, but like that's essentially what's happening. So you want to find a guy that you're like, I can trust him. And Sham said like they could take their time a little bit. The Lakers and the Cavs right now are weeks ahead of them on head coaching interviews. So if you wanted to go get James Borrego, guess what? James Borrego is right now the lead candidate in Cleveland. Like he's the one that everyone's expecting to get the Cleveland job. If you wanted to get JJ, he's the lead candidate in LA. So like the top guys right now have already interviewed with these teams. So you need to sit back, do your due diligence, and get the right guy. And what Sham said is, by the time summer camp comes around or summer league comes around, that's when you need to make sure, no matter what, when summer league comes around, you need to have a coach. And like that is a little down the line, but give yourselves 2 or 3 weeks. Like unless you already know who you want right now, don't rush into it by the draft, because it's the draft next Wednesday. Like it's like it's right here already. So you don't want to do, like, you don't want 7 days and we need to get a player. No, like, or a coach. Like, take your time, get someone in here. You don't want to just bring someone in to have to fire in another year. Like, don't do that. Make sure you have a culture guy coming in. I do like Sam Cassell. That's a great one. That was a great.
Yeah, he's a good option. I see Jesse coming. He says, who the fuck would want to take this job? Let's be honest, guys. Well, it is one of 30 jobs. So
It's an NBA head coaching job. We could say that, but it's a head coaching job.
I get it. Point. Not ideal, but it is one of 30 jobs.
And I think a lot of like, especially up and comers who are hungry, probably look at that as like, wow, I haven't named a possibility to make a name for myself in the league. Like if I find a way to turn this around, and Monty Williams, and you can count the coaches that have been here before, weren't able to do it, and I can step in and make a difference, I think that would speak volumes.
And that's funny. Well, that is funny. Oh, Butterfingers.
Max Fleiser, Booner, the type of guy to say, "Oh, Butterfingers," when he drops his ball.
Hey, but and to that point though, too, guys, like who wanted to take the Lions job 3 or 4 years ago before Dan Campbell got the job and turned it around? Like after Matt Patricia, everyone's like, "Oh, this job, like who can do this in Detroit?" Who like it's a similar situation. It's just in the NBA. Who wants to take it? They'll find someone who will do it. And hopefully, to me, it's hopefully a guy like Chris Quinn. I just want a culture guy, dude. I don't really. You can hire developmental guys. You can do all that. You need a culture guy. You need it.
Yeah.
And by the way, I want to address rumors. I don't have bad hands. You can ask Klotzy. I've got sticky paws. Sticky paws. They called me Jason Witten. They did.
I don't know if they got sticky paws.
Klotz.
I gave Booner the Jason Witten comp. I did. We played a game like all the time at our old employer. Like we'd be grinding on the computer for pause. We'd be working on the computer for like 3-4 straight hours, and we're just burnt out. I'm like, boom, let's go play catch. And we went the one time, damn near 200 straight catches, no drops. Telling you, lethal combo.
Yeah, no, I mean we're absolute dogs when it comes to playing catch.
I want to add this too, and I understand that under Tom Gores, this organization has been a laughingstock for the most part. But let's try to look at this thing big picture. If you're a head coach, which these coaches are competitive, these coaches do appreciate challenges. If you revive this franchise, do you know how you would be cemented within this organization? It's historic. I mean, it is a historic organization. Let's not get it twisted. Like it's an organization that does hold weight. You know,
think about how beloved they would be just for winning a playoff series. Like I understand historic legacy with this franchise, but what the team has endured over the past 15 years.
You're right.
Like if you just win a playoff series, man.
Oh yeah,
that's something.
You go 7. You go 7. And
you gotta win.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, guys, not even just a playoff series. Just get a playoff. You haven't won a playoff game in over 16 years, and this is supposed to be one of the most historic franchises there is. You haven't won a playoff game since 2008. Since you broke up the going to work Pistons, you have not won, not just a series, a game. Not a game in the playoffs. You've been back twice and you got swept both times. Like it's a little embarrassing at this point. It's almost to the thing, like to me right now, the Pistons is the worst franchise in all of sports. And I know that. I'm dying on that.
I'm like honestly trying to think of like the Oakland A's would be the only like
Panthers, the A's. That's it. But like the Pistons,
Panthers went to a bowl with Cam.
But like it's an NBA franchise when you play in 7-game series. It's not like an NFL team going 16 years. In the basketball, to win a playoff game is not that crazy within a 16-year span. Like you should be able to at one point be an 8 seed and just win one game. Like that's not that crazy to think of. So, and especially a franchise like the Pistons. So, Jeff, to your point, whatever coach turns this thing around, it's like obviously the Dan Campbell thing, 40 years or 30-something years not winning a playoff game, like that is significant. But you're almost at a point to where it's like a franchise that has won multiple championships, has had some of the best teams of all time, some of the biggest history of all time, and they haven't done something in 16 years. That's going to be like in Detroit. If you turn that around and make this team a contender, you are going to be loved everywhere. Maybe not on the Dan Campbell level, but it's going to be close, especially if you have a chance and become a contender for the NBA championship.
Well, I'm reaching here. I'm reaching, but I want to say it. Look at the city. Lions are on the upper. They're on the rise here. They're looked at as okay. Lions have arrived. Red Wings. Yeah, they're rising. It is a good sports town. I mean, it's tough right now with the Tigers and the Pistons, but at the same time, if you come here, you at least know, okay, it's a city that loves their sports teams. They're loyal. You know, it's a city that has 4 sports teams. Not every city has that. And on top of that, you have an owner willing to spend. And it's not a small market either. I'm digging here. All right, I am. I'll admit
you're dead right.
It's got to be true. It's got to be true.
Another tempting part about the gig on the optimistic side is it's damn near impossible to get worse than it is right now. Like, I think you could throw in.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
De facto coach A, and you don't have Troy Weaver, you're probably going to win at least 20 games. And that's an upgrade from like maybe the next year, 25 games. I just think it's hard to fuck it up even more than it already is.
And no, in 100, like, this is a sports town, and this is Detroit's known as a sports town. When teams are good, the fans are all about. It's not like, you know, this is what people got to understand. Like, we're not in Florida, it's where you just go to the beach and do, like, California, the weather's so like. Michigan, people that live in Michigan, like, yeah, the summers are beautiful. It's such a beautiful state, probably the most beautiful state there is. But in the wintertime and even, like, it's sports. All we have is sports. We have our football team. We have our basketball team, Tigers, the Wings, Michigan State. Like, this state is all sports. Everyone lives and dies from these teams. So if you turn this thing around, you will be very beloved, like, extremely. People will love you. You see it with Dan Campbell. So you have to be like, I think it's an enticing job when outside of the front office and with the situation.
Yeah, you got to dig deep. I think
as a franchise, it's an enticing job. But like, JJ Redick on his podcast 2 years ago came out. Like, I wish I had the clip. I wish I had.
I know what you're talking about. I watched the Alex Caruso.
He not only said he thinks this is going to be a good team. He said, I think in the next 3 years, which it's been, he's about a year or two off now, still away. But he said in three-ish years, this team can not only just be making the playoffs, but he said after 3 years, I think this team can be contending for an NBA Finals and a championship. That was how he felt about the franchise with Cade Cunningham and some of these young players. So it's about just
after this year.
Yeah, I still think, like, with Cade and stuff, I still think, like, if you do look, that's why I try and explain to people, like, the negative energy through Cade Cunningham. That's why I hate it so much, because you haven't seen everything. And you hear guys like JJ Redick saying that Cade can take a team and be like an SGA. Am I going to take some? I'm not even going to get into that. I was just saying, like there's just people in the chat and on Twitter that are just Cade haters. It's like, am I going to trust that, or am I going to trust JJ Redick, who goes and covers these games and who's played in the league for 15 years?
He watches a lot of film.
And he's like,
he does.
Cade could be the SGA of this team. Like, I kind of believe that more so.
But is he a Cade Cunningham guru like the chat Booner?
I would say he is more of a Cade Cunningham guru than anyone else.
Okay.
I think he's an NBA guru more than anyone else.
Ball knower.
And to keep those points, there will be no Booner path for the Pistons. That is a sacred thing. I have to speak with my team, Klotzy.
Jeff's thinking about that promotion now, if he really wants to take it or not.
Well, you know,
he's already accepted the promotion. He's an account executive.
I have. I see this Illinois. Out in Illinois, he says Pistons are a bottom 5 job in the NBA. We will send you Billy Donovan. You can keep Billy Donovan, and you know you don't want to keep him.
He must be a Bulls fan.
I actually liked Billy Donovan when he was with the Thunder.
I was gonna say, I was like, "There's
I did like Billy Donovan was a hell of a coach in college, and then he comes to the Thunder and
back-to-back national championships.
Yeah, he was. Don't get it twisted, but
he was the last one to do it before Dan Hurley.
But the Bulls, you can keep them. You can keep them.
Can I ask you? I like the Bulls, and this isn't at Illinois. Great, appreciate him tuning in all the time. Legend. Let's just call a spade a spade. When was the last time the Bulls have been relevant in the NBA? Since Jordan.
D Rose.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
They're like.
Have they been in the finals? Have they been in the finals without Michael Jordan?
No, but they by far gave LeBron the most hell. Like when they would play the Raptors. If the Cavs played the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals, it was a fucking sweep or it was done in 5. When they played the Bulls, it would at least go to 6.
But it's been a while. It's been a while. There's some teams though, there's some teams that are in that purgatory. Pistons, it is wild to think that a couple of years ago, actually, no, over a decade. Actually, it's wild how fast time's moving. When we were at a point in time where the Pistons were the talk of town. You know, the Red Wings and the Pistons. Tigers were making some noise. Lions were that sad old Lions. And now it's completely turned. It's just Pistons are a laughing stock. An absolute laughing stock. And you see Stephen A. Smith, by the way. No, I'm going to talk about this. Stephen A. Smith, ESPN. I can't say I'm surprised, but that's got to be one of the most embarrassing things you can do as someone who talks on television, like Stephen A. Smith
blasphemous.
does.
That is blasphemous.
Smith, for you to go on television, look at the camera, and say, "Man, Monty Williams better get on his knees and thank the gods he's out of that town." And by the way, if you're talking about financially, I don't hate it. He's going to sit on his ass and make $70 million. But if you're trying to insinuate that Monty Williams is the victim here, are you shit? And that's the problem with our society, for the most part, is people talk out of their ass a lot. And I think Stephen A. Smith just did that on national television in front of millions of people. Just straight up, there's no way in hell Stephen A. Smith has tuned into one game of Pistons basketball all year, which I don't blame him. But don't sit there and act like you know what you're talking about. From this city, at least that covers the team, there's a lot of well-respected people that cover the team. And people in the chat, these guys are all smarter than Stephen A. Smith when it comes to the Detroit Pistons. And they know that Monty Williams, he fucked up a lot. There's a lot of stuff he could have done better, a lot. So for Stephen A. to do that, man, I'm like, oh, I just cringed. I'm like, oh, he really thought he cooked there, and he didn't have any ingredients. I mean, that was embarrassing. That was embarrassing. No.
You know what it probably was?
A lot of the flack he got. And again, whether his heart was in it or not, or he was just he was bad, I don't care about his resume before, because he did have a resume beforehand. But this year, we're talking this year in a vacuum, it was atrocious. I mean, there's no way around it. And if you want to say, well, it's the Pistons' fault, come on, man. Like, come on.
He probably didn't have his pregame walk.
He's a Sixers fan, right?
Killian Hayes over Jaden Ivey. Killian Hayes is not on an NBA roster. Like,
no, he's a diehard Knicks fan, Boone. Orange and blue skies.
What are we doing? I mean, it was ridiculous. So I'm sorry.
I thought he's a Sixers guy.
No, he's a big New York Knicks fan.
Big Knicks guy. He is. But
he's from New York.
No.
Bro, I swear.
Are you sure?
I've never been more positive of anything in my life. He talked about the Knicks more than I think I heard anybody talk about a single team, any sport this year. He loves the Knicks.
That was bad.
Either way, we're talking about the two.
Talking out of his ass. I mean, that is so bad. And he tried to be funny there, but it's like that could be far from the truth. Like,
yeah, it is weird. Like, especially if you're in national media, and Stephen A. is one of the best to do it. But like, if you're gonna have that platform and do that, at least like let's not do the homework before doing it. I get it, but do your homework before that. I mean, if he's coming at the Pistons franchise, okay, if he's a Knicks fan, like, yeah, the historic stuff from that, but like the Pistons is a historic franchise. Just to say and blaming everything on Monty. I know it's a bad situation. Everything, it's a really bad situation to be in, especially the last 16 years. But that's just an easy way out to just kind of do that. He has been on a tough streak recently. And real quick too, I do want to. Oh yeah, he has. I think he has, at least from when every time I pull up Twitter, it's just Stephen A. getting in a fight on First Take, and it's like serious stuff. It's really weird. It's crazy. There's like an account
He's lost his fastball as far as like being plugged into the game and knowledge, but he found a fastball as far as just being an absolutely obnoxious troll. I'm a Stephen A. Smith fan. Like, I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, his craft is its own. I think he's funny. Like, I just, if you take Stephen A. Smith serious, you're not gonna like him. But if you can tell, like, the man's just hanging on for dear life for as long as he can at ESPN, and he's having fun with it, it's good. Like, his podcast, like, Stephen A. Smith, I don't think is a douchebag of a human being.
He's entertaining.
He just.
Yeah, I just think, bro, just take it for what it is. Pause. But I just think if you expect Stephen A. Smith to be plugging you with intel, then yeah, you're gonna get mad. But if you're just trying to enjoy his show and laugh at shit, yeah, Stephen A. is your guy.
Do you know too the video of him walking into the NBA Finals? Dude. One of the best videos of all time. one of the best videos of the strut that he has. Like he's walking into play
The
in the
pregame?
NBA finals. Yeah, like he's about to win finals MVP in the suit. It's like you knew he's been waiting for that moment his whole life. Like it's like us. Like we would all love to be players and have that moment to go play in a game. And he's like always wanted to play in an NBA finals game. And he had his walk up strut moment with the cameras on him, pulling up with the suit, having the tunnel walk in game 4, whatever it was.
You got it pulled up, Jeff.
It's one of the greatest videos of all I've ever seen, I think, in sports.
I mean, look at this. Like, look at this, man.
This is how I'm going to feel after Jahmyr Gibbs has more total yards than Kyron Williams this year.
I mean,
walking right at ETN just like that, picking up my new Jahmyr Gibbs jersey.
I mean, look at he's walking,
breathing hard and everything.
Like this man's going to suit up and play. Look at him. He probably looks at this girl. Oh, you missed it.
Wait for like the breathing. Like he's like locked in. He does
when he gets the sleeves, when he gets the sleeves going, he adjusts his sleeves. I get so weak.
Someone commented and is like, bro is walking just to put up historical yap numbers. And I was so dead.
Oh, dude. He does that every game too. When the ESPN's covering the finals, he was literally, those videos were coming out every game. It was so good.
Well, you know who else is very legendary is our good friend who joins us on Wednesdays. And we're going to get John's thoughts on what transpired today for the Detroit Pistons. He's very plugged into just Detroit sports in general. Please welcome to the show, the man, the myth, the legend, publisher of All Lions, host of the Detroit Sports Podcast, Mr. John Maakaron. John,
the doc.
Welcome to the program, John. How you doing today?
Oh, you guys are giving me ideas. Guys.
I was going to say, Doc, you got to do that. You got to do that.
I suit up. Booner's got the camera to film me.
Oh, man.
I could make that happen. The doc in a white suit with the buffs and Booner filming me for the content. That could be something very interesting if I start, because I'll be entering year 6, first year of the new deal. I'm going to start strutting, baby, and being like, guys, I ain't just your average blogger anymore. I'm up there with SI.com, and I got my own film crew to film me 24/7. Let's do it.
He's going Hollywood on us, Doc?
We should do like a Netflix documentary on the doc.
No doubt.
Maybe Christian Harper will.
No, we'll keep it simple. All the footage you get of me, you have the rights and footage to air here. Just air it of me walking in, talking about the Lions, and just being there listening. You can use all that footage all you want, man. It's all good, man.
Hey, Doc, they got to give you the first question. I mean, you walk in there swagged out like that, you got to get the first question at the press conference. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's time for me to step it up a notch with the suit. And what we're in a celebratory mood because Tom Gores finally woke up from the stupor that he's been in and realized he's got a shitty basketball team, Jack and Coke.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, Doc.
Pistons finally figuring it out. But, man, I've been saying it since last week because I just wish I kind of just want to interview Monty Williams, because how do you feel when you're dismissed, you're embarrassed, but you get a $65 million safety net? I just think that I'd be smiling, celebrating. I wouldn't be sending out messages saying that I was floored. I'd be happy. I'd be like, you know what? I got fired twice. I'm getting $80 million not to coach. He's the greatest OG in the history of sports, and he fleeced Tom Gores. I just can't. And I talked about it in tomorrow's podcast. I just can't shake the idea that Monty Williams figured this shit out, and he was like a wizard. And he's realizing, wait a minute, you guys were begging me. Troy Weaver sucks at his job. Somebody had to tell him, wait a minute, you do 1 year in Detroit, you collect that $13 million. There's a chance that the record could get you fired, and you could collect this money. And I think that was something that entered his mind. Somebody had to told him, look, man, Troy Weaver's probably on his last leg. That organization's crazy. You could fleece Tom Gores. He's an idiot. It's the greatest retirement package, of course, from Tom Gores. And for those people that are sitting up here applauding Tom Gores, today's embarrassing for him. I mean, he literally made a $70 million mistake. And yeah, of course, he can afford it, but clearly this is an owner that has no clue what he's doing. And yes, I think that he should just hand the job to Trajan Langdon and walk away. I said on the podcast, I don't even think Tom Gores should speak to the media, because every time he talks, he sounds and proves that he has no clue what he's talking about. Just push Trajan Langdon to the front, let him do his job. And all anybody can say, I was listening earlier, and Kory's great, but I do not think that the Pistons have hope. Until you see what Trajan Langdon brings with the head coach and the mix, you guys, the Pistons fans, should be really disappointed. You're at the bottom rung of the NBA. And if you just watch the Celtics and the Mavericks, shooters galore, you are nowhere close to that. Yeah, maybe you can get, like you guys said, a playoff victory. But I think when you look at the foundation of the Pistons, it's embarrassing where they've gotten to, and they got a long road ahead. Trajan Langdon has one of the toughest jobs in sports, but I hope that he can pick shooters, find individuals that understand, hey, here's how you play defense collectively. Here's how a unit can gel together and actually close games out instead of choking. And I hate to say it, the big question everybody says is, I'm not loyal to Cade Cunningham. He can be a good player, but he's not going to be elite. If someone gives you a first rounder,
whoa,
I make the deal. I build around Ivy and Duran, and I move on from Cade for a first rounder and get a superstar. Cade's good. He is not elite. He's not elite. He can't. His 3-point shooting is 33%. I think, Jeff, if you worked out, you could probably get to 36% 3-point shooting. He's good, and there's still question marks regarding his durability. I think he's a good player, not a bust. But if someone offers you a first rounder, make the deal. Make the deal.
I'm shocked, Doc. I'm shocked. You haven't done much. This is the first time you've had me very.
Hold on.
You're baffled, Boone.
Why would you be baffled? Cade, look, in order to rebuild, look, Cade can do his thing, and you got, unfortunately, the worst number one pick of the lot of the last 5 years. You recognize, I mean, there's no Wembanyama when the Pistons got the number one pick, and every time they've stunk it up, they've gotten the number 5 pick, and they've done wrong with that. So in order to rebuild, you have to kind of take an asset and find something a little bit better. And maybe if it's, if Trajan Langdon and his crew are as advertised, then you could move on from a Cade. It's not going to destroy you. If you find talent that can shoot and can play collectively, it would not be a devastating mistake to move on from Cade Cunningham. And I do think that they should seriously take a look at it, because you really want to pay that guy supermax money. I don't think he's supermax worthy. I think that if you can trade him for assets, then you can handle adding talent to this roster over the next couple years.
So let me just get this straight, Doc, and I'm just asking. I'm going to ask you a question. You would trade Cade Cunningham, and again, for Cade, no one's saying he's a top 10 player in the league, top 15. No one's arguing that. So we agree he's still ascending. But to your point, you would trade a proven product, someone who's, I would argue, the best player you've drafted in my lifetime, drafted, keyword, over, and you traded for an unproven first round pick that you hope you hit on that pick. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, then why are you sitting up here telling everybody it's a new era? Because that's how they're going to build the football. That's how they're going to build the basketball team, is through the draft. I mean, I think they're going to have some money to add some veteran talent, but you got to develop young talent. And similar to the Lions, draft and develop. You got to have some shooters. You got to have guys that are more athletic, maybe more durable. And when you recognize, okay, you want to pay a supermax guy to play 60 games a year? Well, I know that's the average nowadays in today's NBA. But I just think that if you are worth a salt in terms of a talent evaluator, you have an opportunity to go out there and pick and draft talent later on, not even at number 5. Hopefully, as the years progress, the Pistons are drafting down the line. And I look at it and I say to myself, if you're going to start this process, I would not be opposed if they kept him. But I think that if you can get an opportunity to get a first round opportunity, and you can get a war chest of talent, then that's one way you can start to move this along a little bit faster. Now, it's kind of the same thing with the Tigers. I don't want to trade Tariq Skubal, but you got to do it. You don't have hitters. And same thing with the Pistons. You don't have enough talent on this roster right now. Outside of 2 guys, you don't have enough. And look, Cade Cunningham clearly, I do think, is going to emerge and be a good player. Is he going to be transcendent? I think that do you think he can single-handedly take over a game and get you to where you need to go? I don't see that. I see that I see that he could be a piece and he'll be a good player. But if you have an opportunity to get a draft pick and move this thing forward, I wouldn't pay him the money. He's not going to be worth the money.
Go ahead, Booner. I disagree.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
We'll move on.
Yeah, I would agree to disagree with you. We've been, and I think this is just in Pistons. The whole community with the Pistons is that's kind of been it's been the coach and it's also been the Cade Cunningham discussion on if people think he's good enough or not. I think there's two sides to it, and I think within due time, like I do think they will extend him. So I think we're gonna find out at some point whether or not that was if he's gonna be able to live up to that and figure that conversation out. I do want to ask you, Doc, though, with all this stuff, and I'm sure you've been pretty locked in online with it, but did you have like a head coach candidate that you want to bring in? I know this is kind of there's just such a cloud over this organization right now. We talked about how, like, are there going to be coaches that want to come here, or like how is this going to be a place where people are going to actually look at it as their legit job, especially with the talent that they have or the young talent that they don't have, I guess we could say. Who do you kind of want to step into this role here? Do you have an idea or a couple names?
Yeah, look, I love the idea of, Trajan Langdon starting anew. To me, it feels like this coach is going to be a transition coach. When you look at kind of the history of the NBA, you kind of need that first coach to kind of teach these guys how to play. So Borrego, Quinn, probably, no doubt. But, when you guys compare it to the Lions, I mean, it just sucks that his record is so far under 500. He's underwhelming, and he doesn't have that juice. But if you look at culture, somebody that understands the Pistons, you look at Chauncey. You could have Tom Gores kind of get back to his roots, Chauncey, and have his opportunity to get his guy back from the going to work Pistons. But his record is so far under 500. To me, I thought it was interesting, intriguing that Hurley's name was being bantered around with the Lakers, but I didn't think he wanted that smoke. He's got probably the best job in America in regards to coaching at Connecticut. And I think he's going to build a dynasty there if he stays. Maybe you make a stab at him, but I would be intrigued with JJ Redick. I think clearly the man knows how to shoot. Combined with Trajan Langdon, they could identify talent really quickly. You always like more experience, but at the same token, you recognize that, to me, the hire is at this point is important to teach these young guys, and you're starting to see the coaching staff and those around are going to be those that emphasize shooting, which is super key. So to me, I believe that Trajan Langdon is going to be given the benefit of the doubt. I think that he'll pick somebody that wants it, the opportunity, will work hard at it. Can't do no worse than Monty Williams. So I'm in agreement of all the names that have been kind of bantied about. But to me, my favorite will be Chauncey. I loved the 2004 Detroit Pistons, and I thought he represented in totality kind of what you wanted in an NBA player, somebody that was bounced around the league, was with the Celtics, didn't go right. All of a sudden, he comes to Detroit and finds his groove with Larry Brown, and it was magic. And Chauncey became, Mr. Big Shot, and it was magical. He understands everything about Detroit. It just sucks his record in Portland stinks, and it doesn't seem like he's kind of, caught on just yet. Maybe needs more time to develop. I don't know if he's ever going to be a solid NBA coach. But, I like what Kory said. Sam Cassell, very intriguing as well, somebody with experience. But I believe that this coach, I believe the one that's going to get the Pistons to the next level will be the next hire after this one.
So you think they got another coach to go, Doc?
One more to go. You're starting at the bottom. Really, you are. You're starting at the bottom. You're basically an expansion team. The pieces don't fit. You're going to jettison out. Okay, tell me, if you told me, okay, you have to build this roster out and you have to keep a certain number and you get to pick, it's going to be 2. And that's about it. And the rest I can move on from. There are no must-keeps on this Pistons roster. You saw a mismatch of talent that's inconsistent from threes. Guys, they built a roster that can't shoot a 3. Literally, you guys watch basketball and you guys say I didn't watch a game. I watched a lot of bricks. I laughed my ass off at the colleagues I work with that went to LCA. I saw a basketball team that could at times get into the fourth quarter and then not close it out. So you're telling me that outside of Ivy, K, Duran, that there's anybody else on that team? Oh, maybe Isaiah Stewart, a glue guy, that's just going to be like devastating, that if they get sent out, you're going to be upset about it? Give me a break. You guys got to raise your standards. Those are not NBA players that are on that roster. They're a bunch of bums, and they're not that good. And I wouldn't pay $5 to go see them. So they're not talented enough at this level. You guys just watch Boston and you just watch the Mavericks. If you compare yourselves to that, then you got to start with 2 guys and build around it. And for those that are just in love with Asar, look, one-dimensional players do not win you titles. Okay. The guy can't shoot. And I don't know if he's going to develop that ability. And I think that, he's a solid defender, but the shots that he was taking were not pleasant on the eyes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we'll transition here, Doc. I will say this: I do agree. We do all agree about this team in general. The only player we're high on is Cade Cunningham. Obviously, you disagree a little bit with that.
I'm high on him. I agree, but at the same token, that's a big commitment you're making to somebody that I think you don't need to make if you have an opportunity to go down the road of finding a little bit better talent. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing how this roster is going to be built out. And you guys said it. This fan base is rabid. I see the debates online, and I see how much people care about the Pistons and how invested people are and how embarrassing it's been to not be able to be in the conversation and to be talking about, Troy. I mean, literally anybody could clearly see from day one, once he drafted early on number 7. Oh my God. I can't believe that you didn't have Tyrese Halliburton on this basketball team. Halliburton could have been single-handedly the guy that did some things for you. And you look at it, Killian Hayes. I mean, I thought I was being too negative. I just kind of stopped talking about him because from the first couple weeks of looking at him, I was like, this guy does not appear to be a number 7 overall pick. And everyone was just like, oh, be patient. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just wait and see. And I just kind of chimed in every so often being like, Killian sucks. And then people would get mad and then I'd back off. But it was clear Troy Weaver was a disaster. And Trajan Langdon can only, go up in regards to what's going on. And hopefully Tom Gores just really, like I said, leave the work to those who know what they're doing. Stay in the background. Don't open your mouth. Just put out press releases and don't prove to everybody and continue to prove to everyone that pays attention that you have no clue what you're doing. Like you guys said, 7th coach. I mean, my goodness. Everybody should take a wait and see approach with the Pistons. They have not done anything to garner any trust at all, even with the hiring of Trajan Langdon.
Well, I'll ask you this, Doc. Just kind of wild transition here.
Yeah.
But Jake Bates. Jake Bates.
Cade Cunningham to Jake Bates, baby.
Yeah, we're going right. Because I want to ask you, Doc. James Turner was cut this week. Media has been reporting that while they were there, I will say, while they were there, he's played well. There's times where you guys were not there. Obviously, there's more to the story. All right, sure. You guys aren't at fault for that because you can't see it, obviously. But what'd you think of that move to now Badgley and Jake Bates competing and releasing James Turner?
Yeah, and real fast, guys, come on. You don't think I watch NBA basketball? I'm a big fan of every single team. I only root. The only thing you're ever going to see me wear is the old English D, rocking all the Detroit teams. And I watch as much as I tolerate because I'm kind of the one of the person that in the second half of the Pistons game would throw the pen at the TV and being like, Monty Williams, what the F are they paying him to do? This is crazy. So now you look at it and you see the Lions, and boy, it just puts a smile on your face because they just do things that make people happy. To me, I said last week I would be surprised because, look, I thought Turner acclimated well. I thought that he was somebody that earned an opportunity to be at training camp. But yeah, like you said, there were things we didn't see, but we did get to see several practices where he looked good. I think he'll be picked up. I think he'll have an opportunity to compete for a job. And you look at Jake Bates, and clearly, he's got an intangible that gets you in the door. He's got a big leg. And the thing that is going to be interesting and intriguing is, can he be accurate enough in competition day in, day out? Because we will be there every single day of training camp. Can he compete? Because right now, to me, Badgley's the favorite. He's consistent, Mr. Reliable. And NFL coaches love people that they can trust and rely upon. And I believe Badgley's only missed a handful of kicks in the time he's been in Detroit. But I think that everybody's happy. You get to see the guy that kind of ignited some passion. And I think that it'll be a good opportunity for him to grow and learn. He's got an intangible, but I think he's got more to learn in terms of accuracy and kicking under pressure. I thought that his opening game-winning kick was great from distance. I think the one thing that bodes well for him is that the Lions play a lot of games this year indoors, so the elements are not going to be a factor in a lot of games. I think he has a great opportunity to make this team. But at this point, as we're talking, as I'm drinking, Badgley's the leader in the clubhouse, and Bates has to come in and take the job. But he has an opportunity to do it, and I hope he does. I hope it's intriguing. It's something always interesting to watch at camp in the kicking battles in the preseason. So let's have it. Let's have at it. Let's have a kicking competition, and it'll be interesting to see who wins it.
I love to hear that. I think it's going to be electric. I put a couple tweets out about that being like, this is going to be an electric battle at camp. And some people tweeted me and were like, you're talking about the kicking battle? Like, no, yeah, the kicking battle, bud. Like, this is going to be a good battle.
Bud.
Like, strap in. Here we go. I do want to ask this, Doc, since we spoke last week, everything's over now. We're getting ready and gearing up for training camp in a couple weeks here now, or about a month. I don't know if you remember, and I'm sure you were actually probably in attendance, but when Dan Campbell mentioned how they were looking, and him and Brad were going to talk this week about adding depth and finding other pieces, what kind of position groups do you see over the next 4 weeks before training camp? Whether it's one or even if it's 2 or 3, what position groups do you kind of see them adding to add some depth to take a look and say, hey, we can go out there and make some moves? Because I'm sure they're going to. It sounded like they're going to, and Brad's always moving and working. What are those position groups do you think that they're going to make some moves in?
Yeah, I think right now with the situation, I think there's one open roster spot. So you always look at it, and Dan Campbell said it would be a depth competition type thing, and maybe it would be a safety. Maybe you look at continued growth and depth along the offensive line because you have a young developing player in Manu, and you want to shore that up to make sure that, hey, an opportunity presents itself. But you look at the opportunities, you look at the Lions roster, and they've done a lot of great jobs in terms of upgrading so many different variety of the positions that you look at. They brought in a veteran linebacker that has familiarity with the coaching staff. So I look at it and I say, maybe at this point in time, in regards to the position, you want to just keep shoring up more and more, and that's on the defensive side. And I look at nice competition battles because of the fact that you don't know exactly if DJ Reader is going to be available at the start of training camp. Maybe he'll miss the first week, maybe not available until pads, as Dan Campbell said. Maybe you bring in a veteran defensive lineman or a defensive tackle. So I look at the Detroit Lions, and they have so many different opportunities to have great competition and depth that it's going to be really fun when camp rolls around. Especially, you really got to give credit to Brad Holmes for really putting a lot. When you look at the roster, it's a roster that has a lot of depth and has a lot of veterans combined with youth that, if they take off, can really be a special opportunity. I'm curious to see if they make an addition, in the meantime, or probably I would look closer towards training camp as they continue to debate and discuss and see who they feel learned the most from camp, and who's going to take advantage and have the opportunity to compete for maybe, if not the active roster, but the practice squad. The Lions are a team that really value the practice squad, and they don't, which is good for us, they don't rotate the practice squad all that much throughout the year, handful of moves, because they do invest in training those players that are out there on the practice squad. So those guys that come in, 89th, 90th, they have a legit chance to be part of the practice squad if they don't make the active roster.
Doc, thank you as always for joining the pod, father. But you brought up the safety depth, and something that Booner brought up I believe it was either earlier this week or late last week, when we were talking about players that could possibly take a step back. And when you look at Ife Melifonwu and how good he was at that last stretch of the season, what do you think the Lions and also yourself expect from him? Because I don't think it's fair to hold him to the standard of those last 7 games. Because to Booner's point, if he plays like that for 17 games, he's the best defensive player in football. So what do you think we should expect from Ife in 2024?
Yeah, it's a good question. And you realize a player that emerged, and you saw his blitzing ability, his physicality, difficulty to assess throughout and project what he's about, because he got hurt quite a bit and just, took a time a little bit to develop. But when he was out there combined with Kirby, I thought they acclimated very well. And I thought that when you had, a secondary that struggled, I thought the safety stepped up last year. Kirby Joseph, 4 interceptions, and Ifeatu Melifonwu called upon to blitz. But now here's the problem, in that you may see him take, and I don't think it's a demotion, but you may see him play a little bit less if Brian Branch adapts over to the safety spot. And you recognize, look, Ifeatu Melifonwu is a guy that's done everything the Lions have asked, changed positions, has acclimated to the safety spot. But I think he's a talented physical safety, and I think he's the prototype of what the Lions like. And I do think that a situation too, and you never know, the talk of Brian Branch playing safety, would they actually do that because of the fact that, I do believe they will, but how much? Maybe that kind of talk is used to kind of see, hey, let's just kind of float out there that if his job may be in jeopardy, let's see how he responds, kind of light a fire of competitiveness under a player. And I think that he's going to compete hard to earn more playing time. I think he's gained some confidence. I like him as a player. I think he's no nonsense and somebody that likes to deliver the big hit. And I think he's just there kind of ready to break out. And I think that if he can compete in training camp, maybe his job will be to make it difficult for the coaching staff to take him off the field. I think it just gives them options. You could have Branch and Ifeatu Melifonwu, Branch and Kirby Joseph, and I don't think you're going to have much of a drop-off. And then you could put Branch in the nickel spot, who's amongst already, I believe what Chris Spielman said, Brian Branch acclimated well to a position at nickel that's not easy in terms of what they ask a nickel slot cornerback to do. So I think the Lions at the safety spot, you just hope that Kirby Joseph recovers well from the hip surgery, and you got 3 talented safeties that I think can do a lot of difficult things in terms of clogging the middle and taking away some of the superstars from the opposing offenses.
Yeah, and Doc, we had this conversation too. And the Pride of Detroit put out an article about just what position group lacks the most depth, and we discussed it here on the show. And I want your opinion on that conversation, at least a position group that you're more concerned about depth. It brought up offensive line. I did. And I want your thoughts on, and really not saying you always have to plan for injury, hope and no one gets injured, obviously, but are you confident in someone like Colby Sorsdahl that he'll be ready to fill any void? Maybe he has to play tackle, guard, so on and so forth. How confident are you in the offensive line depth? And if you are, then what other position group are you worried about?
No, that's very fair. I mean, there's no perfect football team. You're going to have concerns. The starters clearly could be among the best in the National Football League across the board. I just hope they stay healthy. But if not, I do think that Colby Sorsdahl will be an individual that's going to take the opportunity seriously. Struggled a little bit last year. I like what Awosika did as well. I think that those 2 guys will be the first 2 that they consider. Dan Skipper, I think that he's a guy that big physical offensive lineman that can move around and do some things. And I look at it and I say, probably the depth along the offensive line, you could always upgrade. Again, it's always tough when you look at the linebacker spot. I think that you have some emerging players there as well. I just think that when you look at the roster as a whole, you have some question marks in terms of who's going to develop. But if they hit and you think that, okay, you're in development with Colby Sorsdahl, Broderick Martin on the other side, you think the defensive tackle spot maybe is something of a concern as well if something happens to DJ Reader, the veteran there as well. So I do think the offensive line probably is the group. And I think, too, maybe the one that everybody still looks at and is concerned about is the wide receiver spot, because they haven't, heard a lot about Antoine Green and DPJ, and Khalif Raymond is always kind of under the radar, even though he's talked about a lot more. I do think that, wide receiver is always a position that if you can upgrade and get somebody that can move the chains, that's always a position of need that you can always look to. But they have maybe in Caden Davis, I thought he acclimated well. And at the same token, too, the tight ends that have not been talked about have also done a good job as well. So the roster in and of itself, I think has been constructed very well when you look at it in terms of the mix between vets and young talent and some developing guys as well. That, I think that it's fair to say that the offensive line is one in which you could upgrade, and kind of make it so that you're a little bit more comfortable if something happens to the starters.
Doc, all right, we're kind of right now, we're in like the lull period here, obviously between mini camp and training camp. And I've been seeing, and a lot of people on the internet are trying to, find content, put things out. I've seen the last week people grading the Detroit Lions offseason compared to NFC North teams. I saw today an article saying that might not have had the best. They feel like the Detroit Lions didn't have the best offseason, and added to that, we haven't really asked you this yet throughout the whole offseason, which we probably should have and done this earlier. What is your offseason grade for Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions? I haven't really heard that from you yet here on our show, and I would love to know kind of like just A, B, C, D, like kind of a grade like that. I would love to know what your grade is and kind of how you feel about what they've done compared to like the Packers and the Bears and the Vikings here in the NFC North.
Yeah, the offseason is always fun for us because, it's not a lot of content from the players, but it's a lot of evaluations. It's a lot of, okay, let's take a look at what happened last year. Let's take a look at the roster construction. Let's start to preview. 5 weeks will go by fast. So if you check out All Lions, we will have as much content as you would like. We even did a podcast today, really spending almost 30 minutes on the kicking situation, looking at Bates, Bagley, Turner. Also in the second half, if you're not all about the kicking, we talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown and the best way we think Jahmyr Gibbs should be used in this offense. So there's going to be content galore. And it's always funny too, because, you know, the other site you guys talked about, they love to, and everyone too, break down what people said about the Lions rankings in the offseason. But at this point, I think we've written maybe 3 already in regards to kind of, it's overkill regarding the offseason, because at this point, everyone kind of around the end of the draft kind of says, okay, and then free agency, you can kind of recap everything that's gone on. So it is kind of digging a little bit in terms of content. And this is kind of where the national media comes in, and local sites kind of will address and respond to whether they agree or disagree with the national media. And so today somebody put out, they thought that the Lions offseason, based on their decision to extend Jared Goff and give him a massive contract, that made their offseason go down to a C. And so you look at it, everybody has an opinion. In my mind, I never want to hate on anybody outside of Detroit, but if you want the best coverage, stick locally. I mean, guys like me, Jeremy, Jeff, they're in tune in terms of every single day being aware of what's going on. And, you know, the national media kind of, like you guys opened with Stephen A. Smith kind of saying about Monty Williams, they have opinions, but they're not going to be as colored or has enough depth in regards of knowledge. So now talking about the Lions offseason, only way you can really grade it is an A, because they identified their biggest weakness in the secondary. It was terrible. I mean, literally Cam Sutton, Jerry Jacobs, that should have given everybody pause last year. And it was a concern. It ended up coming to fruition. Jacobs didn't even finish the year in Detroit, finished on IR, and Cam Sutton, you know what happened to him. He was jettisoned out in 24 hours after his legal problems arose. So you look at it and you say, okay, you've upgraded that position drastically with Carlton Davis, who I think will step in nicely and do some things. You added Terrion Arnold, who was the first defensive back that Brad Holmes drafted here in Detroit. That's a drastic upgrade, along with Ennis Rakestraw, who can be a big physical cornerback as well, can adapt when he gets in there as well. I think that he's a big player with big personality, even though he's not as, you know, in terms of his stature, as big as Terrion Arnold. I think that he plays big, and he's somebody that I think can really be underrated at this point, because he was kind of held back a little bit. I think Ennis Rakestraw, when he gets it going and he's healthy, when he puts those pads on, I think people are going to recognize him pretty quickly. So you look at the offseason, and they addressed in free agency the needs along the defensive line. You pick up Davenport, you pick up DJ Reader, and then you go through and you add in the draft, I think, a lot of areas that you could say, okay, hey, this is plugged in a hole here or a developmental player there. And I think you have a couple sleepers as well. We didn't talk about on the offensive line. You know, Christian Mahogany could kind of become a road grader in terms of a player, and Manu down the road. Wingo, I think, could be a contributor. So the draft, I think, is going to be viewed very favorably. So there's no way to view this offseason other than favorably if you look at it piece by piece in terms of where the allocation of funds was given. And then you took care of your guys, Sewell, St. Brown, and Goff. No questions asked. You paid them. So there's no way to look at it but a great offseason, graded as an A. I'll say, I can say it freely, ESPN had some hate. Sports Illustrated actually came out to practice. One of the national writers came out, and I saw him there. And he I don't know, they're doing the Sports Illustrated doing the 32 teams in 32 days. I think Detroit's is going to come out, where he had some talk with Penei Sewell and others as well. Sports Illustrated, the writers that have been kind of peeking in as well, they love what's been going on with the Detroit Lions. Even though there's some, dissent here and there, Sports Illustrated loves the Detroit Lions, as well does All Lions with SI.com. So it's a good opportunity to stay local and hang with the people that are close to the Detroit Lions.
Something I've always wondered, Doc, kind of staying on the subject there, when you're down in Allen Park with this Lions roster, is there a player that's much more of a leader from inside that we don't really realize being on the outside, not being down there at training camp, at practices during the season? Is there a player that sticks out more than we should realize as far as being a leader with this team?
I think a growing leader is Derek Barnes. I think that he's a player that kind of rose through and kind of took his lumps early and has become a guy that's become a vocal leader on that defense. Jack Campbell, I think, is going to be somebody that eventually is going to, once he's more confident in everything that he believes in and has a little bit more experience, he's always a guy that's tough on himself. I think he'll emerge as well. But the vets, I think, like, a guy that's new, Carlton Davis will be a leader. The guy clearly oozes confidence. He's already gathering the young defensive backs and teaching them the ropes a little bit. And then another guy, I think that just kind of his sense of kind of how he carries himself and his confidence, I think Amik Robertson coming in, I think his experience level will allow him to come in and handle business. Another leader as well on the offensive side, David Montgomery. I think when you see a guy that's been in the NFC North, understands kind of the leader of that running backs room, I think he's kind of one of those more quiet leaders, not the rah-rah guy, but I think in the locker room, people will respect him and look up to him because of what he's done. And guys, you can never discount Jared Goff. I think that when you see a guy that's steady, he's not going to get up in everybody's face and just light someone up. But when there's something that needs to be said and you need somebody to deliver a message based on their play, or you need somebody to keep a locker room tight, Jared Goff, I think, is a great leader for that offense. And you look at it, I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown and those wide receivers look to QB1 to stay steady when things get murky there in games, because it's tough. And when you have a steady Eddie kind of guy that's just even keeled through the good and the bad, that can really be a steadying force for a football team. So I really do like the makeup of the leadership in that locker room too.
Yeah, you saw Sam Laporta. He attended Tight End University. I think he's already been there before, but he's working out this offseason. I'll ask you, what does a successful season for Sam Laporta look like in your eyes? And is there anything that you've noticed or anything that stuck out from Sam Laporta this offseason, at least at this point in time, than last offseason as a rookie?
I expect Sam Laporta to dominate. I mean, there's nothing that should indicate to me that he should not be one of the top 3 tight ends in all of football. Size, speed, great hands, understands the offense, a lot more comfortable, and he's kind of been molded now to focus on the next play, and he kind of has that stern, professional, Patriots way type attitude now after being talked to about. Just go look at some of his early stuff. He was giggling, having a good time, and now he's just strictly business. I think he wants to dominate. I think that this is a player that when you look at it, when you have that record-breaking kind of success early on, now people know about you. And I love the fact that these tight ends all get together to try and improve the whole unit as a whole. And you look at it, 3 Detroit Lions, Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra, and Sam Laporta. Quite frankly, I think those are the 3 tight ends that the Lions are going to feature this year. Everyone else is kind of trailing from behind. They're at tight end U, and they're handling business. They're picking the brains of George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and they're having a good time. And I do think that Sam Laporta, man, when you look at it, different than TJ Hawkinson and an upgrade. People were a little bit concerned about making that trade in the middle of the season, but you recognize, let Brad Holmes handle business. He knew that an opportunity that you weren't going to probably want to pay TJ Hawkinson that kind of money. But I think that when you see the total package that Sam Laporta is, there should be no reason, barring any injury, that guy can't be one of the top 3, if not the best tight end in football this year.
I love that. Doc. Let's go.
Why not?
I think you're spot on. I think he could end up being the best this year. Doc, we've talked about the defense, the last few weeks as well, with minicamp over now, and you got to see guys like Terrion and Amik, and you got to see Carlton Davis up close, and Jack Campbell, kind of what he's become. Obviously, DJ Reader. Where do you kind of see this defense being this year, kind of in the NFL? Because I know about a month ago, maybe a little longer than that, we spoke with you about how it would, can they take that jump from 25th into the top 15? Now that we were actually able to, you were able to go into Allen Park and see some of these new pieces, do you think that's even more, now that you see it, is that more realistic for that jump to happen now with Carlton and Terrion and Jack taking a jump and, the defensive line additions?
Yeah, I really do believe. Real fast, I want to address Ben Diesel, the all caps commenter over there. I see your comments. Listen, man, I know more about sports. I've probably forgotten more about sports than you do. So I'll look at it like this. I started a successful podcast, not just talking about the Lions. SI didn't sign me. And look, I don't want to spend time talking about myself, but there's 2 minutes here. to say that they didn't sign me because I just knew the NFL. I understand Detroit sports top to bottom. That's my passion. Outside of that, that is something that, others can handle, like the Stephen A. Smiths, the national opinions. I love Detroit sports top to bottom. And in regards to, the Pistons and their young talent, yeah, they're young, but I could also find young talent too that's a little bit better that they should have on this roster that they passed on. So hopefully that they can upgrade, because if you have a young one-dimensional Asar Thompson, come on, guys, they need shooters. Shooters make the game in a way that help you do a lot of things, especially in this NBA where the three-point shot is so key and you don't have a lot of them. So you can have as young a roster as possible. If they can't shoot, they can't handle business. And same now, if you look at the Lions defense, if they can't tackle and get those turnovers, there's going to be a problem. I expect more sacks this year. I expect more pressure. I expect Aaron Glenn to be the happiest man in the entire NFL because he's got some weapons to kind of execute what he wants. It's going to be a violent, aggressive defense that's going to get to the quarterback. They're going to pressure the quarterback, and they're going to be able to handle things. I think, it's always tough in today's NFL. Me, growing up in the past, just seeing the Ravens and that influence of Ray Lewis, I wanted that defense that's just going to lock it down. It's tough in this NFL where it's just all tailor-made for the offense to do a lot of things. So I think that you saw even last year a bend don't break defense that really started to gain traction and kept opponents out of the end zone. That's how they won a lot of those games. I see that with a lot more turnovers. I expect the Detroit Lions to have a top 15 defense. I expect, and guys, let me give you a hint. When I do a fact or fiction and I put a question mark, it's having a debate. So it doesn't mean, hey, that the headline says, is Aaron Glenn on the hot seat? That's my opinion. Now, if you read that well-crafted, edited article with a great video featuring me in it, I said that, yes, Aaron Glenn's on the hot seat. He is expected to perform, as is every single coach. The defensive back struggled last year, and boom, they moved on from Dre Bly. When Aubrey Pleasant struggled, they moved on. And if the defense is not executing, then yes, Aaron Glenn, this is his year to prove it because he's been given enough to handle business. And if the defense is not good enough, then you're going to potentially see a new defensive coordinator. Now, do I expect my close, to give you guys a tease to an article? The article said at the bottom, if you didn't get down to it, I said, yes, it's a fact. Aaron Glenn's on the hot seat, but with the new tools he's got, I expect him to jump off of that hot seat very quickly to showcase what he's about. I think he can be one of those great defensive minds and execute with the talent that he's got. You got Terrell Williams and Deshae Townsend taking over with a little bit more experience. If you get that defensive line to pressure the quarterback and Aiden takes a step and becomes the defensive player of the year, as some would like to believe, then
yes, sir,
it will be a defense that shines, and that would make me happy. That's my favorite side of the ball. And guys,
real quick, Klotz, real quick before
we haven't even talked about Jack Campbell, who I think could dominate this year as well.
Just quick follow up with the defense there on that question. Just taking the step forward because I do agree with you. I think it's a make or break year for AG. Like it is a big year for him. You can't just consistently have a top 25 defense and still be a DC. But just the Terrell Williams thing, is that how big of a impact is that kind of at practice and stuff? Is Terrell like pretty active in there helping AG and kind of getting involved with things there? Like what have you seen with that?
Yeah, I love it. When he said, could you imagine? It's funny narratives that kind of come out. People started to kind of insinuate that Terrell Williams was a teddy bear. And so that kind of got back to him in one of the sessions. And he's like, wait till the pads come on and you think I'm a teddy bear? He'll be MFing those guys all up and down the defensive line. Look, listen, guys, and you got to understand the dynamic, and I can give it to you real simple here in regards to the dynamic. Dan Campbell is a hard-nosed Bill Parcells coach who in front of the media is very jovial, very nice. But if there's something he doesn't like, you better be certain it will be addressed and addressed quickly. He's a football coach, and the people that are there are football coaches, and they're tough on their players, but they pick players that understand that they want to be coached hard. They don't want to be told and coddled all the time. They need, obviously, confidence. But at the same token, what's different than the Matt Patricia era is there is compliments. There are a lot more a jovial nature in terms of having some fun, letting the guys relax and play ping pong. But Terrell Williams is experienced, and he's going to get the best out of the defensive line. I expect DJ Reed, or I expect Broderick Martin to play well. I expect Lee McNeil to have a career year, and look for Wingo to, when he has his opportunity, make some plays. I do think the coaching staff at this point is the best in terms of the assistants that they've had, and a sneaky fit there that I liked. I like Coach O'Neill. Vast experience all over the league, working with the safeties. And he took time last year to come to Detroit when he was out of a job, just to kind of connect with people to get his foot back in the door. And if you go back and listen to his pressers, I thought he demonstrated a lot of great defensive knowledge. And I think he's going to be an underrated addition to this coaching staff. I like Coach O'Neill in the talk we had with him.
Doc, a name you didn't mention when talking about that defensive line is Levi O, and I know that you were hyping him up. You were hyping him up, saying he was barreling through, could have sacked Hendon Hooker twice. Do you think Levi Onwuzurike, who I've been a player that I've been very critical of, I don't think he has the brightest future with this team long term, do you think he carries this momentum into training camp, or do you think it kind of stalls out in OTAs?
Yeah, no doubt. I think Ben will like this one. You're talking about Levi Cade Cunningham, Onwuzurike, always hurt. Look, this is a guy that was battling a back situation. He came in hot. He came in, was talking like, I'm going to wreck the league. And then, unfortunately, his injuries caught up with him a little bit. But now he's able to sustain the weight that he's put on. He's more muscular at 300 pounds. I think he's going to come. I think he's going to compete and fight for his job. He has to. So I look at it and I say that, it's always tough when injuries derail your career, because he's got talent and he was in the backfield. I know he didn't have pads on, but he made a case like, hey, in the spring, I needed to do what I needed to do. And I think that for an individual, if he can stay healthy, I love the opportunity that he's going to have. If he can stay healthy, I think he'll make it difficult in regards to moving on. But I think right now he's a little bit behind in the depth chart. A player I want to see stay healthy too, in the Cade Cunningham realm, in the department of, hey, needs to stay healthy but has talent, is Josh Pascal. I think that guy can do some things and pressure the quarterback, and he can develop this year with the new tutelage, Terrell Williams. I think he can emerge and be somebody you can trust. When he's been healthy, he's been somebody that's been able to get to the quarterback and make plays. I'm looking forward to, he's one of those guys that's a young guy that can do some things. And then just real fast, guys, remember, when you give an opinion, it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, if Cade Cunningham's on the team, I'm going to be disappointed. I'll enjoy his 30 points and I'll enjoy watching him and I'll be a full supporter. But I think that when you look at it, it's a Cade Cunningham, Tariq Skubal, Flaherty, they're all victim of circumstances in regards to Cade departing would not be solely due to his talent. It would be also a part of, you don't have enough of it. And if you can get more of it with one first or second or more and a player, then you have to take advantage of it. So that's how you look at it. I didn't say Cade Cunningham is a bum. I said that I think that the roster is depleted, not good enough. And if you get a first round offer and a player and a vet and somebody or a first and a second, then you take that opportunity. Similarly with good players, I'll say this, when you guys talk about opinions and, oh my God, push back on the doc. Go ahead. I love it. Guys, I'm not God. I just state my mind, my opinion, and I say it freely and I don't back down. And that's why I work with a national company. The biggest pushback I got in sports was not the Stafford opinion when I was like, oh, Stafford sucks. And I think that he's going to be somebody that's never going to win here in Detroit. I said that from year 5 and took the heat there. The biggest pushback I got, and I was surprised. I had, over my time, I have friends that work in baseball that are scouts, professional scouts. And they told me, John, Michael Fulmer is going to blow out his arm. There is no way with the delivery that we see that guy is going to last. Guarantee you, John Maakaron, stamp it. I'll even let you say my name on your podcast. I said Michael Fulmer will have arm problems. So I went out and said, and I started tweeting, I said, trade Michael Fulmer ASAP. Oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. You don't know baseball. Stick to football. Stick to the internet. I said, okay, no problem. And then when he blew out his arm, that's what happened. And you got nothing for him. You had Michael Fulmer at the peak when he was rising up And I said, hey, it wasn't just an uninformed opinion. So you guys can push back on any opinion that I say on this. I read the comments that you guys say. I love it. I love the debate. And that's why I love the opportunity for those that say, hey, when Jeff, looks flabbergasted, I can understand. He's attached to, I think the easiest way to put it is I look at sports and players from a GM perspective. If I smell anyone better, I'm out. I'm not loyal to the players. I'm a GM. I'm more of the, hey, if there's anybody I think is better, I cut and move on quickly. I don't look at it like, oh my God, Cade Cunningham. I don't have his jersey. I don't need him to like me. I look at it like if there's something better, I go for it. That's how you win. And I do the same thing with my staff. I tell my guys, if I could just find 2 individuals better than you, Vito and Christian, I'd move on from you fast. You guys are crazy. What the hell am I working with? They're lucky I haven't put out the pursuit of anyone better. I love those guys. But I tell them too, I'm not loyal to you. If I find someone better, I'm moving on. I'm all about winning, baby.
It's a cutthroat business, Doc.
Hey, Doc.
Cutthroat business, baby. And
man.
Oh God, what happens if I'm wrong about Cade Cunningham and he's a superstar? I get to cheer for him. Big whoop, guys. It's a basketball opinion. It ranks low on the opinion scale, guys. Basketball, guys, I'll be honest with you. Basketball ratings don't move the needle. I could probably have 50 bad basketball takes. It doesn't matter. I have 5 great NFL takes, and it pays the bills.
Wow.
I'll say this. Man. Don't do a basketball podcast. Talk about it with your friends. Talk about it with this. Basketball will get your lights shut off. It won't pay the bills.
You know what, Doc? I will say this. We do appreciate
It's not that popular.
I want to make this very clear, Doc. I want to make this very clear. I let you finish there. My opinion is my opinion. All right. There is part of it, that, again, I do love Cade.
Yeah.
But I don't really care about anything about the Pistons. I mean, I don't really give a shit. I mean, we've said some pretty crazy stuff on this show. I don't do things. There are certain individuals which I do respect their work, and this isn't just Pistons, but in general, where they have to kind of adhere to that set organizations. Yeah. You don't want to speak to off base because then they'll just pull your credentials. I don't got no credentials. I don't give a fuck about anything. And we have our own podcast. But I will say, don't group that Cade take into that. I do believe that. I do like Cade. Now, I'm not going to defend Isaiah Stewart here. I mean, let's be real, Doc. I'm not going to dig that hole. But, Cade Cunningham, we do disagree.
Yeah, Doc. Guys, Cade can drop 30 on any given night. That's great. I think you guys should cheer for him. And there's probably a big chance he stays on this roster because of, the opportunity that he could do and what he sees. I just look at it from a GM side. If an offer is made that blows my mind, I make the deal right away. And I look at it, and I hope Cade has the opportunity. I hope he doesn't get frustrated with what's going on. I hope he stays in Detroit and has a great career. And guys, too, I think that's overblown. I don't think that sports teams in town threaten to pull credentials for opinions. What they want is fairness. They don't just want somebody just being negative, one-sided. They want, hey, okay, highlight this and highlight that. But I haven't heard of in a situation in which a media member's credentials were pulled. And you just got to look at it. There's one columnist that has written some wild stuff about the Detroit Lions, and he's there every single day as well and doing the things he needs to do. You just got to be fair and balanced, and that's all they respect. That's all they want. You look at it, but it is easier in the media if you're a lot more team friendly in regards to like, okay, out of 10 articles, if you write 8 good ones and view it that way, it's a lot easier. I don't have to worry about that. I'm right down the middle. I would say I'm 5-5.
I will say, Doc, I was on the, and maybe this isn't fairness, I was on the, hey, Tom Gores, you probably should look at selling the team about 9 months ago, and I was in behind the scenes action, hey, you probably shouldn't be saying that and doing that, what you're doing, and making the owner mad potentially. So there is that side of things, but now, hey, I've got no one sitting here. We own Crunch Time fully. I could say, hey, sell the team. If you can't figure out a head coach and a GM this time around for the 7th time in 13 years, hey, you probably should throw the team on the market. Just like, if I owned a car business for 13 years and I sold 0 cars for 13 years, I probably should just say, hey, I'm probably not good at this thing. So,
and see, look, we've talked about Cade, and for 30 minutes, and I didn't even once bring up the fact that the guy doesn't eat meat. And hey, that's a situation in which if you're going to bang bodies and you're going to be a vegan, this is Detroit, baby. We got barbecue restaurants every corner. So listen, man, you got to mix in a little steak. And guess who said they mixed in a little steak after going vegan? Ali McNeil found the truth again. And he figured out, whoa, if you're a pro athlete and you're trying to be vegan in that plant-based stuff, good luck to you. I think they've been sold a bill of goods in regards to keeping that inflammation down on your joints. You can mix in a T-bone every once in a while, not every day, but guy doesn't eat meat. Ship him out of town.
Oh, you have.
I'm teasing. I'm kidding.
No, and that's why I love you, Doc. You're opinionated, and although we disagree on some things, you are great at what you do, and we appreciate.
I love talking it.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we're getting fired up, Doc, June 19th, what's Doc look like?
Love it.
September? I mean,
come on. I only need a couple days off. I could talk sports 24 hours. I could talk everything. And then for the guys that say, look, I know I had one podcast where I spent a majority talking about myself, but I will say this in regards to at times you do need to celebrate your victories. And I was humble for 44 years of my life. And I really took stock of, well, what have I done with my career? And I've said, you know what? I've done well. And I could do a lot more self-promoting, but I don't. I just listen, guys, if you truly know me, I love bantering. I love podcasting. I love the debate with the chat. Get one question before I get out of here. Pick one best question and I'll answer it. But I really do have to say that in life, when you grind that hard to try and achieve something and you reach that success, it's important to share it. And I don't do it to brag. I do it to really, I only state it to also validate that I belong there because I am a podcaster. And I know people say, oh, the internet guys don't belong. And I only say it to validate the fact that, hey, if you put in the work and you're crazy enough to try it, you can be successful. And I don't believe I'm the smartest reporter. All I care about and all I say in all the podcasts, if you listen, I'm just thankful. If you go on my Twitter page, you know what I'm about. I thank everybody for putting me there. I'm only here because guys like you will talk to me and enjoy the company. And I'm only here because the fans have read the site in droves at a very high level where somebody in management will say, wow, thank you, John, for doing the work. And I am thankful of the opportunity that I got. And I do have to, because I've been quiet. Like I said, I never talked about myself for 44 years. What's wrong now on a friendly show with friends of mine that have a great internet show to say, hey, I work for Sports Illustrated. And I started in my, I think my Twitter page still says it. I started in the basement. It wasn't even in a bedroom. It was in my basement. And I work for Sports Illustrated. And boys, I did do it too. Did you guys see that Sports Illustrated model story I posted there?
There we go, Doc.
Listen, people were like, oh my God, trash decision, John. Why would you post that? A lot
of clicks.
I work for Sports Illustrated. I am part of Sports Illustrated. So if I can put Sports Illustrated in a headline, I will do it. And I can share freely. I wrote this month, our sites wrote 100 stories about the Lions. The number 2 story is Danny Amendola rolling out with a Sports Illustrated model. Number 2. So why do you think I wrote it?
Shout out Danny.
Come on, guys. That's the business. You have to do it. You just have to do it. And I had debates with the fellas, with journalists. Why would you post that? All I can say is, guys, here's who read it. Here's how much money I made off of it. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, don't. But all I can say is I'm real. I'm honest. I'm a stand-up guy. And I don't mind now at 45 sharing my opinion on anything. That's my belief. You share it and you own it. And if it's wrong, it's not that big a deal, guys. We're talking sports. And if I'm wrong, I've been wrong epically. I know people want accountability. I've been wrong on a lot of things. It just doesn't come to mind right now. I erased it with the Jack and Coke. I can't remember my worst day at the moment.
By the way, Doc, we've been doing this a long time now, for months. I think I get to meet you for the first time next Wednesday. You're going to be at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Crunch Time is credentialed all week long. I'm going to be there Wednesday. I know you're going to be there early, but first time we're in person. Maybe we'll get a video or do something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Wednesday. We'll meet. And for the real fast for the chat again, people don't understand. That's why you have to self-promote. when you say SI sucks balls, all I can say to that is the company that took it over runs the Players Tribune, runs a video service, runs a bunch of other sports websites. So collectively, if you go and look, pretty soon you're going to start to hear about the rankings and collectively with all the sites. If Sports Illustrated is still around, despite the podcasters covering teams, what does that tell you? The lights are on, things are going well, and it does not suck balls. It's great because they've taken the digital age and they embraced it in 2018. They didn't wait for podcasts to get popular. They said, we know what's coming digitally and we know what's going on. So it's not your grandpa's SI. It's a new version. But I think in regards to when you see SI content compared to everyone else, we're in the mix and we're doing as good a work as anybody else. Just go check it out and compare it to everybody else. It's no different, no better, no worse. It's a digital media company that supports their content creators. And from the inside, if I could bring everybody that I know that's a friend of mine and have them work for SI, I would tell them and give them my stamp of approval. They've been nothing but supportive to me, encouraging, empowering. They put my face on videos and distributed it nationally. And whatever promise they made to me, they delivered. And you guys know others that maybe have made promises and didn't deliver. I have found a partner for life that I told them I really don't need another partner. I like this one. And SI doesn't suck balls. You're misinformed. And so that's why I have to self-promote. And the only way I can self-promote it is millions of video views, millions of page views. I have a successful career. And if it stopped tomorrow, I could not work for 3 years and I'd be happy. That's how great SI is as a company, as a support, as a motivating factor. And SI doesn't suck, man. It doesn't. It's a great company. And just like anything, you do your research because you can read stupid narratives. And I think I actually posted that. That was the first time I did it, where I wrote, I took an LA Times column and said, all that bullshit that they spewed about me, not caring, being just a slacker that just throws shit up on the internet. You don't get millions of views when you don't have editors. I pay my editors correctly to make sure my site looks good. And these guys read it. Go tell me if my site sucks. Go read it. You can't. Proof's in the pudding. It doesn't suck. The proof's in the pudding.
You know, it's funny, Doc. You brought up the amount of clicks that one article that Danny Amendola got. And I can't help but think, because I knew it when you were leading up to it, because this is the society we live in. I mean, it brings me back. Because shout out to Sam Stick Day at our former employer. Every single week he would he would show off some girl's Instagram, some model on the website. Yeah. And he used to get roasted. Wasn't really my cup of tea. It didn't really make a lot of sense. But man, the amount of clicks, John, these articles got. People talk, but these horny little motherfuckers, they're clicking on that link. I know they are. They are. I mean, you can't deny it.
Yeah.
So, I knew that was
coming. Ben, it's great. You can hate all you want. You can't mute me. I have a big voice. You can't mute me. I mean, I am. And actually, the craziest part was, I wish, Ben, you came along with this journey because you'd appreciate it more. When we started, my mission statement was, we're a virus. We're going to kick our way into covering sports. We're a virus. We're not going anywhere. So that's the fun part. Was I was the sports virus that just kept showing up. Golf, Oakland University, Detroit Mercy, Michigan State, Michigan, now the NFL, Detroit Lions. And I've met Roger Goodell. I've met dignitaries. So Ben, you'll just be a hater troll commenting and I'll be doing this. What's the difference? So if you want to do something, come and bring it. I always tell people, come and bring it. The water's warm. Start a website. Let's see how
Hey, Doc, I've had it the llast couple of weeks. I've had a couple of hate comments towards me, and I just reply with "Start a show, bud." Like, let's see it. Start a show.
Start something. Because you can. I started as a commenter. I love it, but it's good back and forth. But I don't think it's fair that the commenters can hate on me and then you laugh when I reply. I mean, come on. I'm a grown man that will defend myself. I always will defend myself with the truth. It's the truth. I wish I could tell a lie. It's the truth. And that's why you guys, I think, are going to be great, because you guys are honest. You're raw. You tell it. You're accountable. You have good story contents. And I like I said, I don't have to come and check in. I watch your show when I'm not on. It's very entertaining.
John, that's why we love you.
Let's go. I
love
Great
that.
stuff today.
I
as
love
always,
that.
man. You have a great rest of your night. And hey, the boys will catch you. Rocket Mortgage Classic. And we got to go golfing one of these days, John. I'm getting into golf now. The boys know I got Booner's been training me here. I see you swinging. Doc.
Yeah, I got some game. Let's go golfing. Let's go rile it up and get some Coors Light in you, and let's see how you swing.
All right, sounds good. There you
go.
go.
I love that. I love
Check
that.
his stuff out
Appreciate
online.
you, Doc.
Sports Illustrated. Link is in the description. Check out all of his stuff and check out his podcast. Detroit
just
Sports
disappear
Podcast.
like Batman. Just gone.
Yeah, he may the water's warm. Don't you get in that water?
Sharks are swimming.
I love Doc, man. He is he's a no bullshit guy.
Legend.
He'll say it, man. That's why I respect
Hey,
him.
Doc's a legend. He's helped us out a ton too. And I could text Doc any time of the day, ask questions about
Oh yeah, he's the
the
best.
industry, the Lions, anything I want. When we were trying to get these credentials for different things, Doc, he's texting me sitting there with the Rocket Mortgage. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to help me out next me and Gentry next week figure things out. I mean, he's a legend.
Yeah, I've always respected Doc even before I knew him, but I've always liked him because I just this guy actually doesn't give a shit. Like he asks real questions, like that guy Norch is putting here. He'll go up to that podium, ask some ballsy questions. Like I respect that. Like I hate
we've asked him to ask some questions and he does it. Like and he'll be real about it too.
Yeah, and I don't want to diss anyone who doesn't ask his tough, questions, but I do appreciate that man for all his
respect it more for sure.
Yeah. Well, we got about 7 minutes. If you guys got some questions we can get to before we end the show here. I do want to show off some things, honestly, that we could just show off because we didn't do it yesterday. We did add some stuff to the shop here. So let me
get your merch. Get your merch.
officialctsports.com. But here's some new products we added. We added a koozie. I mean, what are we doing here? All right, you drink some seltzers.
That's high grade material.
Hey, maybe you drink
How about that?
Maybe you drink some seltzers. That's fine. No judging. Drink your seltzers, but you got a koozie. You drink some beer.
Or you drink like a pop, maybe lemonade.
A water bottle, maybe. Water
bottle.
Get some koozie. Get some koozie action. We actually have a sticker as well. So you know what? Get your sticker. Put it anywhere around the house. Put it on your fridge. Screw it. Do whatever you want with it. So we got some things other than clothing here. And I officially just put out the Flex Fit cap, which is
Jeff. That's Jeff. That's Jeff. He's modeling that. That's
it is not me. It is not me. I don't own a jacket like that. I can assure you.
Jeff's a leather coat guy now. How about that?
I can assure you, I do not wear a jacket. I do not own a jacket like that. It's a hell of a jacket. But yes, the Flex Fit hat is out there. I love it. I have one personally, ordered it to kind of test it out. But hey, it's great. I like it. I like the trucker hat too, but I personally like, especially for golfing and stuff like that, you wear one of those Flex Fit caps and you'll be good to go. So
Can't wait
stuff.
to get my gear.
Look at Jacob looking great in that pic, Jeff. Damn it. All right. Well, you got that narrative started. Jesse says if Jeff rocked that jacket, I wouldn't be shocked.
I for sure could see Jeff rocking a leather.
I don't own a leather jacket. I do not.
He's definitely Klotz.
He does.
Klotz. He's definitely
I was
owned
given
a leather jacket in his
leather
life.
jackets as a kid, and I would never wear
I had
them.
one, never wore it.
My dad would be like, "It's a nice jacket. Wear the jacket." I'm like, "I'm not wearing the leather jacket. Like, you got me fucked up."
Well, Ben
that
Diesel
for sure was like an '80s thing.
Add your own custom hair product to the site. A little Crunch Time, some pomade, a little Crunch Time pomade potentially. Maybe we start getting into different avenues. You know what I mean? We start doing.
Can we get our actually? I'll say, can we make our own beer? But I have a beer brand that we're eyeing down. I don't know if anyone knows the connection to this beer brand.
We can
energy drink, but I want a beer brand.
Healthy.
I want a beer. I want a beer brand.
He for sure owns one.
Beer
We see
brand.
pics, plus you're Italian. Yeah, it's like the
Sharks of the Jets.
Yeah, walking down in my leather jacket. No, I do not own one. Maybe I should get one now. Fuck it. Put a Crunch Time logo on it.
I'll walk across the other side of the street from you.
You just avoid
a cigarette. I can just.
Yeah, you have to. If you own a leather jacket, you got to smoke some.
I'm the man.
You got to smoke some darts. It just comes with it. It just does. Booner.
Coffee. We can get it. Phil said get a coffee.
Booner,
What's
before
up?
we end the show, it is your last show. Technically, you'll be here this week, but you're
Well,
going to be
not
gone.
of all
He's
time.
gone. He's gone.
Why are we?
No,
Jeff,
this week.
You've
This
got to be
week.
better with
This week.
You have to be better this week. I'm out. I'm going
You're
on
going on
vacation.
vacation. Congratulations.
Thursday, Friday, and Monday. So first vacation in 3 years. Since I've gotten into this industry, I've not gone on vacation. I've just locked in. First getaway for the boy.
There you go.
Can't wait.
Hell yeah.
And it's just New York City. I'm going to see the Big Apple, baby. Maybe I'll hop in studio with Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah. If you see him, let him know. Let him know the Monty Williams.
You got to give him the pregame walk up too. You can't just walk up to him like, "Hi, I'm Booner." You got to set the tone. Let him know that it's business time. It's not just
the Booner path.
Maybe you get your own leather jacket like Jeff wants now, and strut on him with the leather jacket.
I don't know.
John Fisher. I'll go to Stephen. Hey, let me talk to you in my office real quick. Come here, Stephen.
Call him. You call.
Yeah,
him
you're in
Steven.
his office.
If you called him Steven, he'd probably slap you across the face.
Oh,
he
for
ain't
sure
slapping.
would.
You see his
It's
boxing.
Mr.
You see his boxing.
I don't know, man. Stephen A. is probably a fiery guy. You disrespect him.
He
don't
for
know.
sure is a fiery guy. I might join the show though the next two days. I don't know what the plan is, but if I'm in a hotel and I'm just like, hey, the boys are going, I'm hopping on the show for a day. Why not?
I'm thinking about Stephen A. boxing now, Jeff.
You want me to what? You want me to put it up here?
Well, if you can pull it up, because now I just want to see it. I'm thinking about it now.
Real quick too, on Friday we will be joined by James Edwards of The Athletic, who covers the Detroit Pistons. He will be joining the program on Friday. We just confirmed it. So Friday will be a good. James is very plugged in, so that'll be a good show.
Yeah, I've been trying to have a conversation with James and like on our show. I've been like someone where I'm like, I would love to have him on our show. And I texted you today, said, hey, let's, James. And then you texted me, go, dude, we got him Friday. Let's go. I'm gone Friday. Not here.
Well, it was the timing. Yeah, it's just it worked out.
Make a play, Boone. Make a play.
Well,
I might show up.
This is the guy Booner should be worried about. Are you kidding me? This guy,
Hey, Booner. What's happened if Stephen A. hits you with one of those? What are you doing?
Let's see.
Process the situation. What's
right,
up, Stephen? He hits you with
weak
one of those.
right.
Oh,
What a weak right. Look at right.
his head. Look at
left,
look at he dips his head. Look at right.
Coming
Look at
over
this.
top, right on top of his temple.
Wait, hold on.
Wait, pause it. Pause.
You're knocking that man out right
now. Right there. Right
jab,
hook.
right
Right
jab,
hook.
right down.
You don't know that it's coming though, Boone. Your hands are down. You're getting two piece.
No,
He's
I'm
going to
not.
give you
Right
the
hook.
4-piece
I'm right
tender
hooking
right
him.
after with another combo.
Right, left, right there. Right, left.
I don't know, Boone.
Well, what a great show, man. Shout out to Kory and shout out to John for making today's show very entertaining and providing us with some great insight. To all of you in the chat, every single one of you, we appreciate you on June 19th tuning into the program. That's what matters. We just can't wait till the season begins. I know a lot of you guys are going to be there. Hopefully, every single one of you will be. Shout out to Easy as well, tuning in. We appreciate him. Until tomorrow, Thursday, June 20th, stick around because it'll be a good show. Have a safe night out there. Stay blessed.
See you guys Tuesday.
Safe travels, Boone.
Hold it down, fellas. I love all the people in the chat. You guys are my favorite. Appreciate you guys supporting. See you guys Tuesday.
Until tomorrow, we'll catch you. Deuces.
Peace.